How's it going, Mets, Braves fans, whoever you're a fan of? It's your boy Worry, and we're back at it with another video because this is going to be a bit unorthodox. This is not like my traditional pre-recorded videos I share on reports, rumors, stuff like that. This is pretty much a cultivation of my thoughts on this past weekend's godforsaken series between the Braves and the Mets. And if you're a Braves fan, of course, you're on cloud nine because you beat up on the Mets once again. I know you guys love to do so much. If you're a Mets fan, even with the very low expectations that you had heading into this series, you still feel in a manner that probably leaves you not only gutted but frustrated, more than anything embarrassed to call yourself a Mets fan after watching this series. And of course, I'm exaggerating a bit. I'm not saying that you shouldn't be proud about being a Mets fan. I know I am. No matter what happens with this team, whether they're good, bad, ugly, I will always rep them and I will always support them. However, what I'm not going to support here is this series that we just witnessed over this past weekend. Yes, the Mets won the final game of that 4-game set by a final score of 7-6, but let's not get twisted. If it wasn't for Yonny Chirinos not knowing how to command the strike zone there in that 5th inning or whatever it was, that allowed the Mets to score 6 runs, and which a lot of them didn't have to do with swinging the actual bat, a very Metsian way of scoring runs since the start of the 2022 season. If it wasn't for that, they likely lose that ball game too. When Matt Olson hit that home run in the 8th inning yesterday, I thought, okay, they're definitely going to come back and the Mets are going to get swept. Thankfully, that did not happen. They salvaged the series slightly, but let's talk about this series as a whole and why it frustrates me so much as a fan, why I'm not only embarrassed, but how much I really want to drill in a little bit on the players, because this is a series that, regardless on the status of the club, regardless of them being, of course, sellers at the trade deadline, there is nothing to justify how inexcusable of a performance that we saw on Friday and Saturday, which, of course, was the doubleheader. Friday's game, you lose 7-0, a lifeless offense once again shut out for the 12th time this season, with plenty fan attendance on a Friday night because Citi Field is always popping. Win or lose, the fans love to go there. They love to appreciate the ball club, but it would be nice if the team could actually show a little bit of interest, like they give a damn, because quite frankly, they have done such little job at doing that since selling off at the trade deadline. And I get it, you're a player, you're gutted, you're trying to push for playoffs, it doesn't happen. But at the same time, look in the mirror a little bit, because this is in fact on your shoulders. This goes in hand with you not performing well. This goes in hand with you performing below expectations. Not even being a playoff caliber club after the initial expectations heading into the year is nothing short of a laughingstock and a joke, and is exactly what reiterates the LOL Mets narrative that has carried this team for so long, as much as it frustrates me to say. And I'm frustrated that I'm even having this discussion, because I know a lot of you guys are probably like, Wardy, why do you even care the Mets season's done? We're aware of that. Of course it's done. We're fully aware. I want that 6th overall pick for next year. I don't mind the Mets losing, but it's how they lose and who they lose to. You know, the Atlanta Braves are the best team in baseball. If they don't win the World Series this year, that'll be the biggest joke beyond the Mets this year, because the Braves are that talented. They are star-studded 1 through 9. They have solid pitching. They have plenty of pieces to truly go on a miraculous run. And they did exactly kind of what you thought they were going to do to the Mets in this 4-game set. However, you lose a lifeless game 1. Game 2, the doubleheader, game 2 and 3 rather, you get swept in the doubleheader. You lose game 1 by a final score of 21-3. Yes, you have position players pitching in the 9th. Doesn't change the fact that you were already losing by over 10 runs, because Daniel Vogelbach cut the lead to 10 with a 3-run ding down too little too late, and how bad that guy in particular hasn't looked for this Mets team in the way that a lot of players have. And don't get me twisted, a lot of the guys, especially that pitch in that game when Denny Reyes was starting things, of course they were going to get lit up. I'm not shocked by that. The Mets pitching was not looking good in that matchup whatsoever. Of course, you got solid outings from Jose Quintana in the nightcap, and then Kodai Senga there in the series finale, ultimately the Mets winning that ball game. But aside from those pitching performances, the Mets have their struggles on the pitching front, not shocking, but offensively is really what I want to emphasize here, okay? There is just no drive, there's no life, and you still have Francisco Lindor, you still have Pete Alonso, you still have Jeff McNeil, you still have Brandon Nimmo, you still have many pieces in this lineup aside from the minor leaguers and the Abraham Almonte Jr.'s who are not good, and the Rafael Ortegas who you have to give credit. You can't even say that, oh, he was a factor in the Mets losing. Ortega was the only guy that knew how to swing the bat for the most part consistently in that series 1. That drove in a couple more in that 6-run 5th inning yesterday at the time recording this, as the Mets took the final game of the series 7-6. He went 3 for 3, if not 3 for 4, whatever it was. He had a really good game. Good for him. Happy for him. These minor leaguers who shouldn't even be in the bigs, however, are in this lab because of injuries with the Mets. And of course, guys they sold off, so naturally they have room now on their current roster. But the point I'm trying to make here is that this is the Atlanta Braves. This is your arch rival, and you drop the series the way you did. You are outscored 40-10 against the Atlanta Braves. Yes, the Braves are great. Yes, they're talented, and yes, they deserve all the credit in the world. This is not to discredit them in any which way, shape, or form. We knew they were going to kick the Mets' teeth in, but at the end of the day, you're at Citi Field. It's a great crowd, a great summer weekend as we're getting towards the end of summer. You have great fan attendance. You have a doubleheader on Saturday, and you give them a steaming pile of you-know-what as a thank you? What? This is what drives me nuts. This drives me to no end when you have a ball club, regardless of you selling, you still have talent on this roster, and you just act like, okay, I'm not gonna put effort in. You know what? I know you're putting effort in, everyone in the lab, but you're not showing it. That's the issue. There's no life, and there's games being played. There are, again, tickets that are being bought by fans that are still going to these games, a good amount. For the fans that attended these games, I'm sorry. I really am. I've been there too when you attend Mets games and they don't go in your favor, but it was ridiculous on how lifeless and truly what an utter embarrassment this ball club looked like over this past weekend, regardless of their win yesterday. That was a Mickey Mouse win. Let's be frank here, right? Literally. And speaking of frank, I also want to highlight another thing for me that really grinds my gears, and this is the issue that I have with certain media today. Now, I guess you could label as a media personality. I am just a diehard sports fan that thankfully has a following from discussing rumors, news, live streams, post games, just doing all different types of various Mets content. And you guys have seemed to find a liking to it to a degree. However, when you talk about specific individuals, I'm going to just highlight it. There was a clip that came out not long ago from Barstool. Again, Barstool Sports, many of you guys know. And they were interviewing Matt Olson right before his series against the Mets was starting over this past weekend. And he was asked, about the Mets' downfall and everything, and basically how he enjoyed it. And he'd be lying if he didn't say that many players in the locker room were locked in on Frank Fleming's reactions to the Braves beating the Mets specifically last year. And they kind of use that not as a rally, but it definitely is something that they thoroughly enjoyed and motivated. That frustrates me. And yes, I know he's a personality in his own right, and there's no ill will with Frank or any personality out there for that matter. But there's something to be said about quote unquote being a Mets fan, being a follower, while also doing things and reactions in a way that is going to uplift an opposing team, your arch rival no less. So you have that going. Then you have everyone's favorite media personality in Sal on the fan on SNY, in which shout out SNY for being great friends of mine. I've done work with them in the past this year. But Sal coming out and making the statement that he did last year, saying, of course, that the division was over. He noted, Matt Olson noted, that the players looked at that, they saw that, and it bothered them, and they used that again as more fuel to the fire. So you're telling me that Mets-centric personalities, literally it could be just to a very small degree, whatever it is, were so acknowledged by Braves players that they took further pride into them catching up to the Mets, taking them down towards the end of the season last year to win the division. Pair that with this, and you get the utter embarrassment which has been this Mets club this year. And again, in this matchup with the Braves, this is your arch rival. I love the Braves rivalry so much. I love and hate it. Of course, you hate it when you're on the losing end, but I love rivalries. I think that they are the best aspect of sports in general. When you have a heated fan base, one with the other, there's nothing better, especially if there's animosity between any players against each other. That's even more fun because you're locked in. You're intentional, like, oh no, what's going to happen here, right? Could there actually be a rare occasion of like a fight, for instance, if it's a door, Bautista, for example, or, they're just ruckus going. There's a lot of smack being talked back and forth. Whatever it is, I love that aspect. But the Mets have been getting to wipe the floor clean by this Braves team. And again, I would be saying the same if it was the Phillies or any other rival, truly. Even the Yankees, for that matter. I would be saying the same way. But if you're Steve Cohen and you see this, regardless of them selling, you have to have a bad taste in your mouth because it's truly disgusting. It's embarrassing. And this club is unwatchable. I enjoyed my past weekend. I was keeping up with the Mets, but I enjoyed this past weekend being out on the beach, enjoying myself out of town. Thank goodness that I made that decision instead of prioritizing making sure I'm seeing pitch by pitch these schmucks play these ball games, because that is how bad that they have looked. They're going to continue to look that bad. And again, I know that they're selling. I'm fully aware, but I just need to go on this little rant quick because it grinds my gears to no end, truly to no end, when you see a ball club still with talent on the roster and just act like that they don't give a shit. Pardon my French. I'm going to keep it a buck. They don't. They don't. And as long as you are, one, getting paid, two, are on the team, three, playing active ball games with 30,000+ fans in the crowd, you need to show up. You need to perform. You need to act like you give a damn. And the more you continue to not do that, the more it's disheartening for the fan base, and the more frustrating it becomes for people like myself, who, again, have a privilege of covering them for a living, but are passionate about doing so at the same time. I want the year to be over. I wish we could wave the white flag and get right to the offseason, but we can't. So in the meantime, you need to show competitive baseball. You need to act like you give a damn, especially against rivals. You know, all I can say is that I hope that there's a fire under the ass. Pardon my French again, earmuffs, kids. I hope that there's a fire up there for some of these Mets players that are on the core group that will be here next year that can kind of use this as motivation a little bit. Just see how far that they have fallen this year and what they can do to try to rectify this to be better next year. Regardless on how talented or lack thereof this club will be for 2024 and beyond, there's something to be said about being a major market team, having expectations falling below them, selling at the deadline, but just acting like, okay, the season's done, so I don't need to do anything. It's inexcusable. The at-bats are inexcusable. The overall production's inexcusable. And this is separating the bad pitching for guys in the rotation right now that are not going to be in the rotation next year. That's separate from their poor pitching performances. It's separate from the minor leaguers in the bottom of the lineup that are playing right now because the Mets don't really have anyone else to roll out there, or they're not comfortable enough with the kids at the moment, certain prospects, things of that nature. I'm talking about the guys that have been here for the majority of the season, and a lot of them will likely be back here next year. This falls on your shoulders. Do something about it. Come up, look refreshed, be better for the ensuing games. Even if you lose, just show that you actually give a little bit of a you-know-what, so that way us fans can at least have somewhat of a reason to try to follow for whatever games we have left this season. Was been nothing short of a true embarrassment. And I'm going to talk plenty more on 2023 and the expectations versus reality and how it's going to go down easily as one of the worst seasons in Metsland in their history, given the expectation and truly how far that they have fallen. I could say a lot more on this, but I got to rant a little bit. This is something that I would normally be doing in a live stream setting, but I want to do a pre-recorded video. It is excusable what this Mets team managed to do, or lack thereof, over a weekend with a great crowd, a great fan base that's always passionate, that's always there, and against your arch rivals. And that is what you perform through your first 3 games, and you just edge out the win in the final game, right? Again, if the Mets lost every game by like 1 run, the way that they did against the Braves in Atlanta earlier this year, which was so demoralizing. Okay, as heartbreaking as that is, it's like, okay, you know the Braves are a better team. They have those if factors, they have the X factors. The Mets just don't. So even though that was it was a crazy seesaw back and forth, it was an entertaining series, just heartbreaking if you're a fan. But this is different. It's different when you're losing ball games and you genuinely look like you are not even a Major League Baseball club. And that's exactly how the Mets looked for the vast majority of the series. And that in itself is inexcusable. It needs a change. I don't mind the Mets continuing to lose. I'm all in favor of that top draft pick. However, I would like to see them actually show a little bit of life, fight, just look like you give a damn, because right now you look like anything but. And thank you for coming to my TED Talk. But Mets fans, I want to know your thoughts in the comments below. Braves fans, I want to know your thoughts in the comments below. How do you feel about that? How do you feel about the personality aspect too? Look, you've had a star player in Matt Olson openly say, reference Frank, reference Sal as motivators, effing motivators to a degree, things that players look forward to. I know Mets players know myself in the locker room because, again, I had the privilege of being invited to Jeff McNeil's charity event, which was so awesome a couple months ago. I'm grateful for that. So I understand that's not hard for players to be active on social media and see these things and learn a little bit. But at the same time, it's the fact that it's New York media that continue to be a driver, that they're eating up for breakfast. AA, their GM, is eating this up for breakfast from what the offseason expectations were, all this spending. He was laughing off saying, we feel comfortable where they are. And as you should, because the Braves are in a position that, again, if they do not win a championship this year, that in itself will be hilarious because they are way too talented not to, at minimum, go on a deep run this year. But that's all I got to say. Just had to spew a lot of different thoughts on, again, this horrendous series that was over this past weekend. The Mets match up with the Pittsburgh Pirates coming up, whoever it is. Point is, this team is a laughing stock. They are a joke right now, and I cannot wait for the season to end. It truly cannot come soon enough, so that way we can talk about more important matters in Metsland and how they right the ship. What do they do this offseason and everything in between. So Mets fans, Braves fans, whoever you're a fan of, thank you so much for watching. Thank you for the endless support, and I'll talk to you again real soon. Let's go Mets, baby. Peace out.